right. Welcome everybody to our webinar, Aging Ebony, Black Women and HIV and Owning the Narrative. I hope you're all doing well. And I also want to thank you for taking the time out out of your day to be here, right? So just to lay out a little bit what it's about, we will be highlighting the unique needs and concerns of Black cisgendered women aging with HIV while addressing the 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 systemic barriers, stigma, and gaps in care that contribute to their invisibility in healthcare. This webinar will feature guest speakers with lived experience help who can help providers better understand the needs of Black cisgendered women living with HIV. This partnership aims to shine a spotlight on the importance of listening to Black women and their healthcare needs and believing Black women, especially when there's an overlapping factor like HIV. This this webinar aims to be the first step on that journey. So welcome again to everybody. My name is Darrell, and I am joined by my colleague Fabian from UCSF Alliance Health Project. This webinar is made possible in collaboration with San Francisco Health Department, HIV Health Services, and San Francisco AIDS Foundation. Please note that this webinar is being recorded. A link to this recording will be shared with all participants after this event. Okay, so the main goal today of today's webinar is to educate HIV providers about the unique needs and challenges and the healthcare disparities that Black cisgendered women aging with HIV encounter. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature to submit those questions and comments throughout this presentation. We will address what's it called? All questions at the end. Okay. All right. So let's talk to our guest speakers right now because so one of our guest speakers will be Ebony Gordon, and she is community engagement specialist, a researcher, and advocate, sorry about that, dedicated to creating a safe and affirming space for Black women and the communities the communities impacted by HIV. Finally got that straight. Sorry, y'all. Okay, so she leads the HUES program at the San Francisco AIDS Foundation, and she coordinates a national HIV care research advisory board. She's going to take us through a presentation that she has created. Her work is rooted in harm reduction, holistic care, and community-driven solutions. She will also be joined by Diana Dupree. Diana Dupree is a mother. She's a grandmother. She's an auntie, and a sister, and a friend. But she she's also a advocate for Black women living with HIV, and has a long sorry about that. As a long-term survivor, she she uh, she channels was her was her her resilience into breaking down the barriers and stopping HIV stigma in its tracks. Her warmth and her wisdom and in unwavering commitment to her community, Diana uplifts and empowers Black women. It is her belief that that every Black woman uh, de- de- deserves dignity uh, and support and joy. Okay, so without further ado, I pass you over to Ebony Gordon. Thank you.
Thanks, Daryl. Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are doing well today. As Daryl mentioned, I am Ebony Gordon, a community engagement specialist with the San Francisco AIDS Foundation. Sorry, I'm looking how to share my screen. Yes, community engagement specialist with the San Francisco AIDS Foundation, where I lead a program called HUES, or Healing and Uniting Every Sister. We'll talk a little bit about HUES a little later, but we can go ahead and dive in now. So today's goals are going to be to increase awareness and understanding among providers about the challenges that Black women living with HIV, living and aging with HIV face. We're going to talk about promoting culturally responsive and trauma-informed healthcare experiences for Black women living with HIV. And then we're going to dive into how we can strengthen community and provider engagement by encouraging collaborations between providers, community-based organizations, to expand what peer support looks like for women living with HIV. So the vibes for today, we're gonna talk about the legacy of Black women in HIV. We'll talk about women living aging with HIV. We'll talk about rebuilding trust between women and providers, as I mentioned. We'll talk about how sisterhood keeps us strong, and then we'll end with a call to action. Diving in, so there is a historical exploitation of Black women's bodies, dating back to chattel slavery, where when Black women were bred to sustain the slave economy, they were forced to reproduce and forced to provide manual labor. Also, instances like the forced sterilization of Puerto Rican women that happened more recently in the 20th century, and then we could talk about women like Henrietta Lacks, whose cells were stolen from her and used to provide all kinds of cures for different diseases and during her time. And then also the Tuskegee study. We can't move forward with medical mistrust and those kinds of things without mentioning the Tuskegee study or the Tuskegee experiment. Black women have feared being dismissed, misdiagnosed, or not receiving equitable care, especially when it comes to their reproductive health, their bodily autonomy, and the ways that they manage pain. So, medical abuse, reproductive control, and systemic racism. We're gonna go. I know this is a little wordy, but we're gonna dive into some history as it relates to HIV. 1981 Morbidity and Mortality Weekly reported that 26 people were diagnosed with what we now call AIDS. One of them were Black, and this was confirmed by the CDC. By the summer of 1982, 20% of reported cases of what we now call AIDS were among Black people. Between 1986 and 1990, half of the women diagnosed with HIV were Black, which was 3 times higher than that of white women. And during this time, federal funds were allocated to the cure and treatment of people living with HIV. In the 90s, you may or may not remember, but there was a surge of media attention towards Black people and HIV due to a disproportionate rate at which Black people were affected by HIV. So you may remember people like Magic Johnson or Hydea Broadbent, who was a woman born with HIV. She appeared at the time, she was a girl, a young woman, a young girl. She was like 7 or 5, but she was on the Oprah show. So you may remember seeing those clips of Hydea. And yeah, so all this media attention during this time, there was magazine covers with a Black woman living with HIV. She was on the cover. During the mid 90s, new drug regimens became available for people living with HIV, such as AZT, which was considered a highly active antiretroviral therapy. But these new drugs, their dosages were extremely high, and the side effects that people were experiencing, some people said that the side effects that they experienced was worse than what they were feeling living with HIV. During this time, a state of emergency was issued for the Black community, and funding was provided for the prevention of HIV among Black people. This was known as the Minority AIDS Initiative. And then in 2000s, data revealed that the majority of new HIV diagnoses occurred when a partner was unaware of their HIV status. The 20-minute HIV rapid test became available in the early 2000s as well. So if you remember back to 1981 or in the early 80s, where people had to wait weeks and weeks and weeks for their HIV test to come back to them, and so there was a major amount of stress in this waiting period. But in the 2000s, many years later, those rapid tests became available. There was also during this time an increased visibility of the global impact of HIV among women and girls. A lot of the attention was given to women in Africa, who were the most people affected by HIV during that time. However, excuse me, in the U.S., the epidemic resided for Black women in the U.S. South. The modernization of research and treatment during this time also gave ways to people living healthier and longer lives with HIV. In the 2000s, the first national HIV/AIDS strategy and the Affordable Care Act were introduced by President Barack Obama. However, HIV stigma continued to be a thing due to a lack of education, willful ignorance about HIV. But during this time, it became known that undetectable equals untransmissible. So if a person who's living with HIV is taking their viral therapy or their treatment, this means that a person's likelihood of transmitting HIV to their partner through sex is 0%. So this was a huge discovery. People already knew somewhat that if they were taking their medication, they were able to be have children and all these kinds of things, but it officially became the case through scientific research that undetectable equals untransmissible, which is huge. We found that, and during this time, it became well known that early diagnosis is best for people to keep their viral load as low as possible. So, rapid test and treat, keeping people in care, and then sustained viral suppression. So, in order for a person to be considered undetectable, they would have to have a sustained viral suppression for, I think, 6 months. I think that's what it was. I mentioned a little bit ago that there was a imbalance of the way that Black people in the U.S. South were affected by HIV. So states like Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, all of these southern states were the most. That's where the epidemic lies for Black folks in the U.S. Statistics for lifetime risk of Black and brown same gender loving men and trans women were also uh, introduced during this time. I think that at one point, over half of Black trans women were living with HIV, and then there was a 50% chance that if statistics continued as they were, you had as a black or brown same gender loving man, one out of two chances of acquiring HIV in their lifetime. Um, also, more information came out as to how HIV prevalence was among among women generally, and at the intersection of intimate partner violence. Youth around ages 13 to 24, the HIV risk among this age group was more visible as well. And then a huge discovery came in the mid 2010s, where Truvada and Descovy were, which are HIV medications or medications to treat HIV. They became tools to prevent folks from acquiring HIV. So it's kind of like birth control, but for HIV. So if a person was taking this medication consistently, and sometimes there was at on-demand dosing, but that didn't come until later. But if a person were to take this prevention medication, that would prevent them from acquiring HIV. And then long-acting injectables and PrEP for antiretroviral therapy came in more recent years. So that was a lot of history. Some unique challenges that Black women face. Having said all of that, some unique experiences that Black women faced are, despite being 15% of the women's population of the country's population of women, 60% of new HIV diagnoses have been among women, Black women. Black trans women face systemic disparities, like health violence is a huge thing, mental health poverty, and are often left out of conversations pertaining to their wellness and their safety. Black women living with HIV experience poorer health outcomes compared to their counterparts and are less likely to achieve viral suppression. So you think about all of these things, you think about the social determinants of health. So things like economic and housing status. If people are unhoused, their likelihood of achieving viral suppression may be lower because they're not thinking about needing to take this medication on a daily basis. They're thinking about, am I going to be able to eat today? Am I going to be able to sleep somewhere that's safe, where I can be able to have my medications here? A lot of people feel afraid to have their medications with them at shelters where unhoused people are housed for temporarily, because of fear of HIV stigma. There continues to be a huge level of medical mistrust or distrust amongst providers or people who provide services, wellness services for people living with HIV. There continues to be health literacy issues, access to affordable health care, lack of sexual health education and social support, because of this huge amount of HIV stigma. I think at this point in the game, if we think about all of the data that's out there related to people living with HIV and how medication is so effective and how people are having children who are born HIV negative, they're be able to breastfeed. These are all the things that have occurred through science and through community advocacy. However, HIV stigma still continues to be a thing because of people's willful ignorance and those kinds of things. Systemic barriers like financial insecurity, transportation, navigating complex health systems. All of these things contribute to how likely Black women, Black folks are able to achieve viral suppression. So, what does this mean for people aging with HIV or women aging with HIV? We know that the medication works. We know that people are living longer, healthier lives. I think the life expectancy for a person living with HIV is the same now, is the same as people who are not living with HIV, which is something that's a huge thing. And so people are growing older, people are growing up, people are growing up. However, there's this double or sometimes even triple stigma for people living with HIV. Ageism is a huge thing. There is a lack of respect, a lack of understanding that just because a person has aged, doesn't mean they're incapable of caring for themselves, or doesn't mean that they're incapable of having new information or living life, right? Living lives. So ageism continues to be a thing. We know that racism for Black folks continues to be a thing, and sometimes even gendered discrimination. So Black women, I walk outside the house every day, and you can't deny that I'm a Black person of women or female experience. HIV stigma again. Comorbid health conditions are something that is prevalent for people living and aging with HIV. So, increased risk of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, issues related to inflammatory conditions, or this constant uh, activation of one's immune system. There's very limited representation of people who are older, 50 or older, in research. And so there's not much information out there as to the ways that long-term medication usage, all these things, there's no information out there as to dosing and all these kinds of things for people who are older and living with HIV. Social isolation is a thing for people getting older anyway, but this continues to be a thing for Black women who are aging with HIV. Again, HIV stigma is a huge thing, and I can't stress it enough. But there's too much information out there for people to be ignorant related to HIV, honestly. That's just my opinion. So I'm going to each one teach one. In my personal life, I'm going to do what I can to overcome HIV stigma by providing people with the facts. The data is out there, but by providing a lens into the ways that we care for ourselves as a Black women vulnerable to HIV. Mental and emotional support is something that's a huge thing as people age with HIV. Again, the whole ageism aspect, and people just not being heard or listened to as an older adult. Caregiver responsibilities, regardless of a woman's age, she is genuinely more frequently looked at as a matriarch and a caregiver of her family, people around her. So all of those play into the ways that you know, Black women aging with HIV experience. I think in the city and county of San Francisco, 70% of the people living with HIV are over the age of 50. So people are getting older, y'all. And how can we make our health systems, our wellness networks better for people who are growing older? So some ways that we talk about strengthening relationships. We want to enhance our providers' understanding of the ways that Black folks care for themselves. So training providers, things like we're doing today, training providers on knowing what's culturally sensitive for people, and acknowledging and respecting the unique experiences that Black women face. Integrating our services, so developing coordinated care models that address both HIV and age-related concerns to ensure a healthy, well-rounded, holistic approach to women's wellness needs or women's well-being. You talk about knowing what the social worker knows about knowing. Sorry, the not the gynecologist. What is it? Gerontologist, and a doctor who cares for older adults, having them know what's going on and for a person socially. Like, are they getting enough access? What is their level of access to healthy and affordable food? So all of these, I think it's impossible to do HIV related work without acknowledging that it is an intersectional disease. Intimate partner violence, access to healthy and safe, affordable healthcare and food and banking, and all these kinds of things go into supporting a person. So how can we better coordinate all of these needs, these basic life needs, so that people can feel like, all right, excuse me, I'm at a place to where I can focus on this now because all my needs are taken care of. I can make sure that my health, and now I can make sure that my health is my number one priority. How can we empower people to be an active part of their wellness life? um, Fostering community engagement, creating supportive peer networks and community programs that empower Black women, reduce isolation, and promote active participation again in their healthcare needs. So, bringing people together, bringing peers together, bringing other Black women living with or vulnerable to HIV to increase the way that we feel like we are held and supported. Um, and I think that's something that is easy to do, honestly, because if we think about the organizations or the services that exist among community, sometimes all it takes is a phone call like, hey over there, like what do you all have that complements what I have to offer for community? I think a tool of white supremacy is that it keeps us separated in silos, but historically Black folks find wellness in community. We find wellness by being a storehouse for the needs of our community. Like we care for ourselves. So how bringing that into a medical wellness space or um, any type of wellness space for a person, I think that will go a long way in reducing stigma and ensuring that Black folks, Black women are felt, like I said, and supported. So reducing isolation, a judgment-free zone. Again, women can discuss openly their experience because we have shared identities and we find comfort in that. If I see a Black woman in a room, I might not know her at all. I may have never seen her before, and we might be the only two Black women in the space. So if I'm going to make eye contact, or even if I don't, like I'm going to care for my sister in this room because we have some shared identity. We have some similar lived experience. And I think that reducing isolation is a major way where we can ensure that wellness needs are met. Increasing treatment engagement and adherence. So again, fostering trust by providing these peer support spaces. It helps me know that, okay, like they have this and this and this here for me. And they have a room where my sisters get together and we can chat and this is in these so in like community health systems, um, community care centers, whatever the case may be. If there's a coordinated effort, there's building trust. Like I feel comfortable coming here because not only have they shown me that they care about my medical health, they also show that they are worried about if I have access to food or if I have folks here, a support group that I can go to with lived experience. Again, it promotes consistent engagement and care because I'm coming here because I know they have all of these things for me. Building empowerment and to improve treatment adherence. I hate the way that sounds, but and people feel empowered when they feel like they have all their needs met at the end of the day. They feel more empowered to advocate for what health and wellness may look like for them. Again, providing emotional and mental health support. I'm here and I'm sharing my lived experience, and I know somebody in here may have experienced the same. So, offering an environment that feels like it's healing for myself holistically, access to mental health, shared coping strategies, emotional validation, those kinds of things. Partnering Black led organizations that offer peer support, creating affinity spaces. I think these are small steps, or even they're small, huge steps, if that makes any sense. A little goes a long way when creating space for women to feel safe, to be able to share and feel validated. Fostering empowerment. I talked a little bit about this already. Active participation in their own healthcare, knowledge sharing, skill building, informed decisions because I've come to this space. I feel empowered and I feel like I can tune into what my health looks like. Cultural competence. So bringing forth spaces that appeal to me as a Black woman. So even if we're not talking about HIV, I mentioned already that it's impossible to do this work without acknowledging it lies at many intersections. Um, And so making sure that our providers are aware of this. They might not have all the knowledge, but they're aware that their experiences, that Black women's experiences are different. So how can we just make our space more culturally aware, more culturally responsive to the needs of Black women? That the how can we bring forth spaces that are Black or that are peer led, so led by Black women with lived experience, because we know again that we feel best when we're in a space with ourselves. It's culturally affirming. What did they say? Representation is everything, in the ways that we care for ourselves, and also providing peer-led programs that promote leadership development. I'll talk a little bit later about what we do in HUES about building leadership and community power, mentorship and advocacy, to just have an ability to share knowledge in order to build what community power looks like, strengthening the collective voice. So I've said a lot. I've said quite a bit, but now I'll go into what we're doing to address the needs of Black women living with and vulnerable to HIV at the San Francisco AIDS Foundation. Our mission, this is a little hard to read, so I apologize, but we envision a future where health justice is achieved for all people living with or at risk for HIV, and we promote health, wellness, and social justice for communities most impacted by HIV. We do this through sexual health, substance use services, advocacy, community partnerships. All the things that I mentioned are small steps to build community power. So that being said, healing and uniting every sister or HUES is a resilient space by and for Black women living with or vulnerable to HIV. We launched the program in 2022, and it has provided a space for Black women of all ages. It's an intergenerational space, so we've got some wisdom sharing between generations of women, of Black women. We've talked about our health, we talk about our wellness, we talk about our joy, how can we find safety, and how can we experience pleasure in our lives. I love HUES. It's my baby, and I'm so glad to see like where it's come from, where we first began to now, and how our Black women within HUES feel supported and empowered, and how they feel comfortable and safe to be able to share. I'm just really proud of what we built within HUES. We talk a lot about Black healing and resistance, traditional ways where Black folks in community heal themselves, and how, again, collective power. We talk about HIV in Black communities, although it's not necessarily our central focus. We do talk a lot about HIV in Black communities because we're at the San Francisco AIDS Foundation, right? Again, an intersectional disease, so we have to acknowledge this and this at the same time. We talk a lot about safety and reducing isolation as a form of safety. We talk about, well, we haven't quite done this yet, but one of my goals is to have some self-defense classes, or ways where we can bring in instructors to teach Black women how we can just be better empowered in a self-defense stance as we're experiencing, or even if we're actively experiencing violence, or if we're trying to prevent, violence in the future. Self-defense. We talk about healthy aging, and again, reducing isolation as a form of healthy aging, advanced healthcare directives. We talk a lot about planning for the future, whatever that may look like for our families, for ourselves, those kinds of things. And again, the building leadership and advocacy. There is an active mentorship piece that we have within HUES. So we have some of our older women paired with some of our younger women, and they have this wisdom share that is absolutely beautiful. We have an age range between, I think, early 20s to early 80s, and so it's really beautiful to see all these ages of Black women in one space, just smiling and gaggling, like laughing out loud. I think that's one of my favorite things to see, is Black women, Black people smiling and experiencing joy in their lives in whatever way. So now we'll talk I'll talk a little bit with you with Diana Dupree, who is one of our accountability board members within HUES. So she's part of the group of women who shape and inform what we do within our program. I'm really excited to be joined by Miss Diana today. She's my good girl. I'm really glad to work with her and for her to be part of such an amazing program and just um, sharing her voice and her using her voice as a tool to dispel HIV stigma. So, Miss Diana, girl, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm on my way home from dialysis, but I'm good. I will turn my camera on when I get in my house. I'm outside right now. So yeah.
Okay, that's all good. So are you prepared to take some questions now?
Sure.
Yay. Okay. So what do you think Black women aging with HIV need for their providers to understand about their lived experiences? What do you think is important for providers to know?
First of all, we're not a subject, we're a person. Most important thing that I am a person. I'm a human being. So don't treat me like I'm a subject. Treat me like I'm a person. So I think that's the most important thing is to know that I'm a person.
I would
Um,
agree.
I think the other thing is that let's work as a team. Don't dictate to me what you think I need. Uh, talk to. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, oh, okay. Um, so thank you. All right, bye bye. So yeah, don't dictate to me like work with me, not against me. Um, so don't don't dictate. Have a conversation with me, have a conversation with us, and let them explain, let the person explain what she needs and try to understand and work with her to get to where she wants to be.
You make really good points. I think that you've addressed how we can build and sustain trust. Relationship is really important for us to be able to tune into our own health. Like, I have to be able to know that you trust me and that you trust me that I know my own life. You trust me enough to tell you that my own life. And that's the way that we build trust with our providers. Like you said, it's not just I'm coming in here and I'm checking these things off the box. Like, no, engage in a conversation with me. Provide opportunities where I can feel safe enough and not in this 10, 15-minute, 20-minute time block. Like, no, try to find ways where if you know you're providing health services, whether it be medical services, whether it be community services, you have to be able to be flexible in the ways that you provide care to people. Everything's not a one size fits all. Like, trust me that I know what's going on in my own life. And that's the building these relationships, I think, is really important. So I'm glad you touched on that. What do you think that I have these questions here and you've addressed a little bit about them, but what do you think providers can do to amplify their Black women's voices and to support their autonomy and what their care looks like? What do you think they can do to ensure that Black women's voices are at the forefront?
Um, that's a powerful question. Um, I think a lot of this consists of understanding. Um, yeah, understanding. Get- say that question again to me. I apologize. I'm
Yeah,
just
no worries. So,
coming in now.
what do you think providers can do to advocate for space for Black women?
understand if they understand what we're saying and hear what we're saying, when it's time for them to advocate, they won't have no questions. Long as they understand what I'm saying and they hear what I'm saying, then I'm gonna turn it around that's more what we may trust them where we will feel comfortable allowing them to speak for us. If they don't understand us and don't hear us, I'm not gonna trust them to tell whoever or not tell, but advocate for me if I don't if they're not going to try to understand me. So I think hearing me, understanding, and if you got that about me, then that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so talking to us, having that relationship again, touching back on that relationship piece, it goes a long way. I might come into your offices, your building one day and be like, "Yeah, girl, I wasn't able to get my groceries today because such and such wasn't home because I had to go to an appointment, and I got held up at my appointment, so nobody was there to receive my groceries." And we gonna tell you our story. Sometimes it's not going to be direct. Sometimes you're going to have to listen in. You're going to have to be able to pick out cues. So you're saying that, okay, no one was home to receive this, to receive what groceries are there. I wasn't able to get to the grocery store. So creating, um, uh, having creative ways to where you can to be flexible in whatever services you provide again, and you'll be able to learn all of these things by trusting me that I'm telling you what's going on in my life. I might not be directly telling you the thing that's needed, but if you're listening to me, if you're engaging in conversation with me, if I feel trusting enough to run off, run my mouth, you're gonna have to be able to listen, and that's only gonna come from spending time with us. So again, relationship is a really important thing. So I'm really glad that you touched on that.
And the other thing is that I just lost my throat. Oh, quick. What I'm going to say is I have to come back to it because I just lost my thought. Sorry about that.
Okay. Can you touch on a little bit about what kind of space Hughes has provided for you?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Um, one of the sisters that is part of my life is her name is Anita School. And
Can you
she
speak a
kept
little
saying,
louder?
oh, sorry. Her name is Anita School. And she would call me, said, Diane, Ebony wants to meet you. Come to the city. And I kept like, okay, I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming. And so I decided to come. I went to the mural that they did. I went to that. And she impressed me so much. So I said, okay, I come. So I've been coming, and Hughes in San Francisco is a different vibe for some of the organizations that I go to in Oakland. And so that's where my connection went. It's a different vibe. It's a vibe that I love. It's the women there they're in my age range, and I love that. Um, they she brings out the compassion in you. Um, she offers things to us that is love there. It's I mean, they're supportive, even with she's collaborating with the brothers, and they're it's so we work together doing different things, and it's like an emotional event for me. It's I don't know if you're understanding what I'm saying, but you know, she brings the best out of everybody. She shows love to everybody. It's not a popularity contest. She gives love to everybody. The programs give love to everybody, different ways. And so that's, I mean, it lifts us up. As she said, leadership. I've been in this field for about 20 years. I've learned in the 6 months I've been with her, I've learned a whole lot more about myself and who I am and my purpose. I knew what my purpose was when I came in this field, but since I've been in HUES, I know really what my purpose is and why I'm here. So yeah, they a lot of love, a lot of love.
Thank you, Diana. Yeah, providing alternative ways where it's not your traditional support group. It's a space
Right.
where you can come in, and again, it's very rare that we talk about HIV. Honestly, it's a little bit rare. I think providing ways where people they're not worried about that HIV, like that's just one part of their life. How can we appeal to their creative side? How can we appeal to your goofy side? How can we appeal to your emotional and space? How can we talk to you about the hard things like substance use and harm reduction? How can we talk to you? What are some creative ways we can bring people together? We did candle making before. We've gone to the movies. We've painted. She talked a lot about, or she talked a little bit. You talked a little bit about the mural that we did. So we like creativity over here. We like different ways where we can build community with each other. It's really, again, all about building community and just having space where people can feel free to be themselves, whatever that looks like. Um, yeah, HUES it's fun. It's been really fun. It's been really exciting to see to see Black women smile. Oh my God, I can't stress this enough. It's so good. So good to see just across the room a Black woman smiling because they're over here chit-chatting. They got their legs crossed, they're painting something, they're drawing something, coloring something, they're playing cards, they're playing with Play-Doh, like different things. Like it doesn't have to be um outlandish. It can be the very simple things. It's the small things to where we can feel, excuse me, safe and comfortable in a space that is provided. And the accountability board is a good display of Black women informing each other of what's needed in community. Thank you, Diana. Do you have any questions for me? You?
I probably do. Um, so, um, how did you come up? First of all, I want to really know how did you come up with the title HUES? And um, yeah, that's the question. And I want to just say thank you for HUES.
No doubt. Yeah, so when I say that this group was formed by and for community, it started with one conversation with one woman who was eager to have a space where she felt like she could be heard and seen as an older woman living with HIV. So I talked with her and I was like, I have an idea and I know I want to call it HUES, but I don't have an acronym for it. I just love the color brown. I love Black folks in all of our shades and varieties. And so I knew that I wanted to call it HUES. And she was like, well, why don't you make it an acronym? And I'm like, okay. Do you have any ideas for what the acronym could be? And I can't remember what the first one that I came up with was, but she was like, I'm not sure about that. She said, how about we call it healing and uniting every sister? And I was like, girl, you are on to something. Like I can get with that. And she chose the name, one of our movement mothers. So there's three women who I first began building relationships with. It's Holda. You talked a little bit about Anita and our loving and beloved Nilda. Yes, those were our three movement mothers who helped to build what we now know as HUES, Healing and Uniting Every Sister. So it just started with those conversations. Holden invited me to meet Anita, and Nilda and Anita were they're aces, like they were the best of friends. And so they introduced me to Diana and other women in community. And so it truly is led by the women who helped to build the space. That was a good question. And I'm always going to show up for Black women. I'm a Black woman myself. I grew up in an intergenerational household where I had my grandmother, I had my aunts, I had uncles. Like I grew up in a space where I naturally had an inclination to spend time with my elders. It's something that's ingrained in me. It's something that I'm really, really grateful for. I had very young parents, and so I needed to be in space where I could see generations of family members. I think that I'm really grateful for that because everybody doesn't have the same story. Everybody doesn't have relationships with their family. And I think particularly for women living with HIV, some of the people in a group have not spoken to their family about their HIV status, and that's okay, as long as they can feel empowered and feel held and seen and loved in a space where peers are at. I think it doesn't take away a pain that a person might feel for not having their family support, right? But I think
Right.
it is a start for women to be able to see themselves and to see um, a younger woman who's newly diagnosed might really feel glad to be in a room with a woman who's 81 and is living with HIV and is very active in community, right? This is something that's really special, and it really is a testament to my life experiences and also the life experiences of the women who shape the group. Any other questions for me, Diana? Or
No,
anything
but
that you want to say at all?
I just want to piggyback on you on a couple of things. First off, I'm a little jealous because I just grew up with my mom and my dad and my two sisters. I didn't have my grandparents, my uncles, and my aunts because my dad was in the military. But I have friends that grew up with their family, and I get a little bit of jealous. But my grandchildren have what we don't have, what I didn't have when I was coming. So I'm glad about that. The other thing is that's one of the reasons why I do what I do because of the stigma. Women, especially Black women, we have a little bit of pride. And so we don't, we if like in this situation, we can't just be open about our lives because there's stigma out there, because of our family, that's that's just real and that's out there. And that's one of the reasons that I do this is because I have to be a voice for somebody that can't use their voice. And that's the biggest thing, and I tell people all the time, AIDS is 10%, 10% medical and 90% social with the stigma. All of that is more important, more out there than the medical. We take medication and we're healthier. And that's fine. That's only 10%. 90% is the rest.
I like that. I do. Because you're right. Like that, I might take my pill in the morning, but that's one minute out of all these minutes in this one day, right? All
Yeah.
these other things
Yeah.
shape me to be who I am. It's what I ate for breakfast. It's did I call my granddaughter at
Hmm.
lunchtime? Did we watch the stories today together? Did what soap opera are you watching? Do you watch Sisters on BET? Like those kinds of things. Like all these other things really shape us to be who we are, and the HIV may just be one part of it. One
Hmm.
part of it. Thank you for sharing. I don't have any more questions for you. Do you have any more questions for me before we open it up for before we invite Fabian and Daryl back for a larger Q&A?
No, I just say thank you to you, Ebony. I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
give you praises every chance I get.
I love you, girl.
Let people know that he is doing amazing things for us Black women. Yeah,
And it's only growing bigger. We're growing bigger by the day.
right.
Mm. Okay. Well, any audience questions? Mm, let me
All
stop sharing.
right. I see that Jen has a question. I just wanted to say first and foremost, thank you so much, Ebony, for that wonderful presentation. A big thanks to Miss Diane for the great contribution and conversation as well, and for your valuable feedback. I think there were things that were said in conversation that are still so important. And thank you for being vulnerable about it, which takes a lot of effort. So before we wrap things up, we want to address some questions in the Q&A chat. And I saw, Jen, your hand, so I can just read them for you guys. And it says, Diana, besides HUES, which is awesome, are there any HIV programs that have been supported for you? Any experience you can maybe share where you have been, where you have felt seen and valued by a healthcare provider? Like, what is something that that healthcare provider did that was so memorable and it was tailored to your experience that you could share here with us today?
So I got tested in 1996, and I didn't know what my life was gonna be like. And somebody told me about World. I don't know if anybody knows. It's Women Organized Response to Life-Threatening Diseases. And they have been the biggest part of my life. And I say this, and when I say it, it's for truth. If it wasn't for World, I don't know where I would be right now. I don't. And so they have been my biggest support through my journey with being positive. I I go to the same doctor's office I've been from the beginning, and that's EBAC. And when I first got there, and I'm you know, I look I when I first found out, I asked about if there's any Black doctors out there. And at the time there wasn't that many. But so I went to EBAC and I got a doctor, and she she treated her patients like they were family. And I'm a really emotional person, and I like that loving and concern. I've always been that. I wear my heart on my sleeve. And so she was there for me. And so it was them two places that pretty much, gave me a light to say, you're going to be all right. You're not alone. We're here for you. And so, yeah.
Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
that
sharing that.
whole I
Go ahead,
see you,
Ebony.
it goes a long way. It
Exactly.
goes a long way.
Yeah. And I think that's what you both are saying about like having providers that treat you like family, having someone that can see you and respect you for who you are. It's
Yeah.
very valuable and important. And I think we have one. Jen says, thank you for sharing, Diana. And I think we have one more question coming from this person called Miranda from World. And the person is saying, name some ways to rebuild trust that may have been lost. So any ways, like one or two scenarios in which you can mention that can help kind of like patient provider to build trust that have been lost, besides treating, the patient as if they were family, obviously having those boundaries of respect between patient and provider. But what is something else that can help rebuild trust between those two relationships?
Is
What
that to Diane?
ways?
To either Ebony, Diane, yeah.
Um, that's a tough question for me. It's I'll just say this. I mean, I could be wrong for saying it, but I don't trust people. Well, um, it's not that I don't trust. It's if I lose trust in you and something happens where we have a breakdown, if we can't have a conversation to try to mend it, then I walk away. And I say, thank God that every place I've been in my walk on this journey has been pretty good. I haven't yet had to have to walk away or have a conversation. I've gotten much respect. They listen, they hear me. So, you know, that's mine.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit about this as well. So, the SFA's Foundation has not historically been known as a place where Black women can find safety and solace. It is historically known as a place that provided services for gay white men, right? And that's totally fine. And also, like, if this is an agency or organization that serves people living with HIV, acknowledge that there are other people with other identities who are living with HIV. And I think that in recent years, we've done a really good job at engaging in conversations with communities who have previously been told there's no space for them here. And that has literally verbatim been told to people in community, like, oh, we don't have any services for you here because you're not white, you're not gay, you're not a man. And so I'm really proud at where we've come in terms of providing or building back that trust. And I think it took for people to find that there were people who are genuine within the organization who really care about the safety, wellness, health of all people living with HIV, including Black women. I think in recent years we've had our programs have grown because they see that because folks in community are seeing that, like, okay, I feel represented here now. I feel like I can go in and I can feel like I can find somebody there who might have the same shared experience. And no, it's not perfect, and yes, we still have a long ways to go, but I think that people seeing that there are genuine people within folks seeing that there's genuine people in the organization who have a genuine care and concern for safety, wellness of people is something, again, that I'm really proud of.
Thank you so much for that, both of you. And what I'm hearing is that it's not only important for, patient to let provider know these are my needs, this is how I need support, but also the advocacy efforts that you, Ebony, and other folks have created and demanded for people to receive services that are not necessarily from those other intersections are also important. So important. Thank you so much for that, for the work that you guys do. Any other questions? Let's see. Yes, Miranda from World is saying, thank you so much for taking the time to answer my questions. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, I love you, Miranda girl.
And I think those are the questions that we have for now.
All right. Well, before we move into, actually, no, we're going to move into the call to action now. Let me share. So, where's my screen? Sorry, a little not tech savvy, so apologize. So our call to action, take a look within, take a look at where you have done wrong or where you feel like you're not at a plate. Acknowledge where you've been wrong. Take a look at where you've been wrong and how you can move forward. Integrate culturally responsive care by engaging in conversations with folks. Invest in peer support. So advocate for peer-led programs and non-traditional community engagement. So you might receive funding for this, but how can you partner with other organizations, or entities that can fill gaps where where you're not able to provide a service. Just advocating for these traditional community engagement pathways, and be loud about the disparities that Black women face. Be loud about how much you want to include Black women in decision making. Like, include them in decision making. Pay them, okay? Pay people for their lived experience if they're coming to talk to you about their lived experience. Like, their experience is valuable and they deserve to be compensated for the way that they're opening themselves up and being vulnerable to share widely. Again, collaborations with other organizations or advocates to fill gaps. I think that the call to action is really simple. Take a look within, invest in peer support, and amplify Black women's voices. And you can see some ways, I guess, the origin story about the program through our Songs of Our Mothers mural, which is you see behind our movement mothers and our artistic director. There is a short film on YouTube called Songs of Our Mothers, and if you have your phone, you're welcome to scan this QR code. It'll take you directly to the video. It's 17 minutes long, and again, it shows. It tells our women, Anita Schools, Hulda Brown, and our dearly recently departed Nilda Rodriguez. They're sharing about their journeys with HIV, sharing about how important peer spaces are, and sharing about the ways that sisterhood has affected their lives. 17 minutes long, not very long at all. So I encourage you to go look at that. Again, I want to acknowledge Nilda Rodriguez, who was one of our 3 movement mothers for HUES. She's one of our 3 founding members, and she recently passed and went over to her next plane. She is a powerhouse. She has been so instrumental in many women's journey through HIV. And so we honor you, Nilda. We love you. Your spirit will continue to live on in everything that we do within HUES. I'm grateful to have known Nilda in this lifetime, and I'm grateful to have had her wisdom imparted within me. So in HUES, you're not just a member, you are a crucial part of our sisterhood and what we're building. If you're looking for support, connection, or info, HIV care and prevention, we have that here for you. So if you have someone who you would like to refer to HUES, here is our referral QR code. So if if you want to scan this, you're welcome to. I can also, you can also email me or call me on to find out ways where you can refer people to our groups. We have in-person support groups and virtual support groups, and we do outings every now and then. So, like I said, hit me up, fill out the interest form, email me, call me, text me is easiest because I am a socially awkward person. So sometimes texting is good for me, but do whatever floats your boat, whatever way feels comfortable for you to reach out or to have someone reach out. I'm here on all of those platforms. So, any last words, Diana?
I just want to do a shout out to my friend Nelda. That was my heart. And so I truly am gonna miss her. And I just want to say thank you, Ebony, for asking me to do this. I thought I was gonna be nervous, but this was really powerful for me too. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be in you guys' space.
Yes. Thank you for being you. All right. Well, I don't have anything else. I can stop my share. Actually, I'll leave that up.
All right. Personally, I think this was an amazing conversation and presentation. Thank you so much, Ebony and Diana. I think we're waiting a little bit for Darrell.
Right here.
You're here? Okay, perfect. I just wanted to say my thanks. I think it was an amazing presentation. I so look forward to working with you in the future as well. And maybe we'll have Miss Diana back into the stage. So Darrell, take it away.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, thank you both for being here. And Diana, you said thank you to us, but I want to say thank you to you for sharing your story, because that's the real story here. That's the real honor. So thank you for even making the time to do this, right?
Thank you.
So, Ebony, I have to share my screen. Can you let me share mine real quick? Thank you, love. All right, so I just want to thank everyone for coming. If you found this content helpful, or if you want more of this content, please contact us at ahbtraining at ucsf.edu, right? So please keep an eye out for more of these webinars on this topic. And oh my God. And again, I just want to say thank you, because it does mean the world to us that you showed up here, because you could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be here. So thank you for doing that. And I just want to leave you with this quote: all that you touch, you change. All that you change is what God changes you. And the only lasting truth is change, and God is change. And that is by the late great Octavia Butler, right? So thank you all again for being here. Thank you.